The chamber found that on 10 separate occasions you beat, stabbed, and kicked 19 Muslim men in Kozarats, the Priador barracks, and the Ormazka and Karaturm camps, and you aided and abetted in the beating of one Muslim prisoner and the sexual mutilation of another.
Hello everyone, I want to talk to you guys about the hell of the Balkans. The reason why I want to talk about this is because, well, for one, it demonstrates how evil human beings can be. It demonstrates the dangers of nationalism, which is something that is growing tremendously in popularity. And also because there is just really something that I want to get off of my chest. Because I've been talking about the Balkan situation and what happened back in the 90s since 2014, when I interviewed a former Yugoslav intelligence officer about what the KLA was doing back in the 90s and the atrocities that the KLA committed. So I've been talking about this subject for close to a decade now. And I have always been on the side of Serbia. And I have always been sympathetic with the plight of the Serbian people that took place back in the 1990s. But looking at the situation and hearing the opinions of different people, really the reality is that evil was done by all sides in the conflicts that occurred in the Balkans in the decade of the 1990s. Evil was done by the Bosnians, evil was done by the Croats, evil was done by the Albanians, and yes, evil was done by the Serbs. The KLA kidnapped people for their organs, kidnapped Serbs, kidnapped Albanians who didn't agree with their ideology, and took their organs for organs trafficking. The KLA did shootings. The KLA ambushed Serbian police officers, murdered Serbian police officers. The KLA did some very grisly murders. Bosnian Muslims committed atrocities. I remember talking with the Serbian sniper, Dejan Bedic, and I did a documentary about him. And before I did the documentary, I interviewed him for about 3 hours or so. And I brought up an atrocity that was done in the war between the Serbs and the Croats. And he told me that both sides did wrong. He told me this. He said both sides did wrong. Croats did wrong. Serbs did wrong. And that was surprising because the impression that I have had for years is that Serbs will always say the stories that you hear of Serbs doing evil things were just made up and they were just NATO propaganda. But here was a Serbian veteran of the war in Bosnia, someone who has been fighting for Russia for nearly a decade now, going all the way back to 2014 when the conflict erupted in eastern Ukraine. I mean, this wasn't just any Serb. This was told to me by a very famous Serbian soldier, Dejan Bedic. He is very, very popular. It's quite amazing. Dejan Bedic will put out a video, and in no time, the guy gets 78,000 views. I mean, the guy has a lot of clout online amongst Serbs and Croats. A lot of Croatian people also like to watch him. So it's not like this was just somebody that I just met, or it wasn't. It was someone that I did meet online, but this wasn't coming from just any Serbian person. This was coming from a Serbian person with a lot of prestige, and he told me wrong was done by both sides. So it's like, wow, here is someone who has introspection. Here is someone who has definitely taken the time to reflect on this matter. And he told me about how the Bosnians took a young Serbian boy or a Serbian child and cooked the child in an oven. And today I had a conversation with a Serbian man whose family was in the conflict between, his family was in the midst of the conflict between Serbia and Bosnia back in the 1990s. So this guy had a lot of insight on that whole matter, on that story. And he told me that there were Bosnian Muslims, who took Serbian pregnant women and ripped the fetuses from their wombs. But he also told me that he has a relative who fought in the conflict. He has a relative who joined a paramilitary. And he joined the war against the Bosnians, believing that he was fighting for a good cause. And what this man told me was that his relative returned back from the war disillusioned, because he saw his fellow Serbian soldiers doing horrific things, doing horrible things. And it really, really disturbed him to the point where he became quite disillusioned. So I was talking to him, and I brought up something that I've heard a while back ago. And what I heard about the war between the Serbs and the Bosnians is that there was a situation, a very dark and depressing story, in which a Serbian prison guard or a Serbian prison official of some sort forced a Bosnian man to bite and chew on the testicles of another Bosnian man. Now, I was told this a while back ago by somebody from Croatia. There was this Croatian guy, and if you're listening to this video, you know exactly who you are. There was this Croatian guy who told me that back in the 1990s, there was a situation in which a Bosnian man was forced to bite the testicles of another Bosnian man. And when he told me this, it really bothered me. It bothered me because I thought, well, could it be a lie? Because we know that during that time, the KLA had manipulated the Western media into believing that the Serbs had committed some sort of an atrocity in Račak, but there was a lot of tampering with evidence that took place. There was a lot of manipulation that took place, to the point where it makes it difficult to simply accept the story as it is said, as it is recounted. And so I thought, what if it's fake? But then another side of me, another part of my brain, really another part of my conscience was telling me, what if it's not fake? You know, what if it's real? What if something like this really did happen? And it really bothered me. And it was like what Morpheus told Neo. It was like a splinter in my mind. And the reason why was because, you know, for years, since 2014, almost a decade now, I've been talking about Serbia and supporting the Serbian cause. And I'm thinking, if something like this happened, it would really bother me, because Serbs are people who are very proud of their Christian identity, their Christian faith. And so it bothers me that people from a traditionally Christian society would do something like this. So I was speaking to this Serbian man today, and I brought this up with him, and I said, do you think that this happened? And he said, it wouldn't surprise me. I said, it wouldn't surprise you if, he said, it wouldn't surprise me if it did take place, because a lot of evil was done in that conflict. A lot of evil was done. And he told me a story about a Bosnian Muslim sniper who shot a young Serbian boy, or shot a young Serbian girl, and then when the brother rushed to his sister's body, he shot the little boy, and he intentionally waited for that boy to get close enough so he could shoot him, so he could shoot both children. I mean, it's pretty wicked stuff. And I started looking more into this, and this is what I found out. So there was a guy, his name was Dusan Tadic. I think he's also known as Dusko Tadic. Regardless, Dusko Tadic was found guilty by The Hague for crimes against humanity. And here is an article. This is from the Moscow Times, and it says that there was a key prosecution witness who said that Mr. Tadic was not in the prison camp where a Bosnian man was forced to chew on the testicles of another Bosnian man. But nonetheless, there was a witness who recounted this taking place. And Tadic was found guilty of being the one behind this atrocity. So this is what the article says from the Moscow Times. It says, a key prosecution witness has told the UN war crimes trial in The Hague that he never saw an accused Serb at a camp where a Muslim prisoner was forced to bite off another's testicles. The alleged incident at the Serb-run Omarska prison camp is one of the grisliest crimes for which Bosnian Serb Dusan Tadic, a former bar owner and karate teacher, stands accused. Witness H, a 28-year-old Muslim with 3 young sons, told the court in closed session last Wednesday that he had never seen Tadic at the camp, the Prijedor region of northwest Bosnia. The tribunal on Tuesday released a transcript of H's testimony, which dealt with a gruesome incident when Muslim prisoner was forced to bite off another inmate's testicles. H, who said he had been taught karate by Tadic before the war, said he and another inmate, identified as G, were ordered to lie in a ditch at the camp and drink the oily water there. A third prisoner, Fikret Harambasic, was then ordered to jump naked into the ditch. Were you ordered to lick his arse? Asked prosecutor Michael Keegan. Yes, H replied. Was G ordered to suck his Harambasic's penis? Yes. Was the next order for G to bite his testicles? Yes. He said the Serbs were yelling, bite harder, harder, as G bit off one of Harambasic's testicles. Last Wednesday, another Muslim survivor of Omarska told the court that he had seen Tadic among a group of around 10 Serbs present during the brutal sexual mutilation. And it's very difficult for me to read this because it's for obvious reasons. I mean, this is evil. I mean, this is demonic. This is not like fighting for Christianity. You're not fighting. This isn't fighting for your existence. This isn't fighting against evil. This is evil. This is demonic. And I mean, as someone who has been talking in support of the Serbs for nearly a decade now, it's like I have to come to grips with this. I can't just ignore it. I can't say, well, it's just all lies and NATO made it up. Like, I can't ignore this. This is pure evil. Yes, KLA did media manipulation, and I talked about this in one of my recent videos. And we have to face up to it all, okay? We got to face up to the reality, to the manipulation. We just have to be open. Because, as the saying goes, the truth will set you free. And if you face the truth and if you declare the truth, that's freedom. But if you feel like you shouldn't talk about a certain incident because you're on Team A and you don't want to look like you're sympathetic with Team B, that's not freedom. That's self-restriction. You're restricting yourself. You're fettering yourself to a bias. And that's the problem. We have to face up with this. And I want to give you guys an example. This is an example from Vladimir Putin. In 2010, Vladimir Putin joined Polish officials to commemorate the massacre of 20,000 Polish soldiers by the Soviet Red Army in what is known as the Katyn massacre. And this is what Mr. Putin said. Vladimir Putin, this is what he said. We bow our heads to those who bravely met death here. And this is from the New York Times. In this ground lay Soviet citizens, burnt in the fire of the Stalinist repressions of the 1930s, Polish officers shot on secret orders, soldiers of the Red Army executed by the Nazis. Putin faced up to the reality of the Katyn massacre. Putin didn't say, "Oh, that didn't happen." He didn't deny. He didn't pull an Erdogan who denies the Armenian genocide. He didn't pull a Shinzo Abe who denied that Nanking took place, or he denied that there was comfort women or women who were sex slaves to the Japanese Imperial Army. Putin faced up to the reality that yes, the Soviet Union committed horrific, horrendous atrocities. It's not like, oh, Serbs were innocent and KLA were just all the bad guys, or Bosnians were all the bad guys and Serbs were innocent, and there was just evil NATO. Like, it wasn't like that. There was wrong done, evil done on both sides. Does that mean that we support the KLA? Hell no. Does that mean that we support Bosnian Mujahideen? Absolutely not. But what it means is that we cannot act as if these atrocities didn't take place, because they did. They absolutely did. And it's so much better for us to admit to it. It's so much better for us to face up to this reality, this very, very dark reality, because it shows us the dangers of ultra-nationalism. The dangers of ultra-nationalism, and we see nationalism rising up. We've been seeing nationalism rising up all over the world, and we've seen this trend increasing probably since 2014 or maybe 2013. But I remember years ago, I think it was in 2014, seeing Narendra Modi rise up in India and seeing the immense popularity of Shinzo Abe, I believe back in 2013. So really a decade ago, and just seeing the Japanese getting more militaristic, seeing India becoming more nationalistic, and then in the refugee crisis of 2015, seeing the Europeans becoming more and more nationalistic. And the people feel very justified when they entrench themselves in nationalism, because nationalism is always a response to something wrong that the other side did, something destructive and evil that the other side did. So they say, let's become nationalist. And they feel very empowered, they feel very justified because the other side has done wrong. But the problem is that they react to the point where they go out and they murder innocent people and they do horrific things like what these Serbs did. So what the Balkan War, what the hell of the Balkans tells us is that when people feel justified in ultranationalism, when people feel justified in their jingoism, they can do some very, very demonic and horrific things. And it's because they're twisted people and they're evil and they're demonic. It really is that simple. Anyway, you guys just heard some theology. God bless.
i crnih očiju prazan veo. U glavi tiho, poput vodene priče, oni laju kao ribe. Telefoni sasvim tamni, reci samo malo, daj mi krišku, kaži. 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 Duboko iz dubine, poludjeloga tihog. Samo malo, daj mi krišku, kaži. Reci